G'day, swingers, and good morning. It is Thursday, March the 10th. Welcome to episode 9 of Macca's Old School. Today, as promised, we have a very special show, part 1 of a 2-part series with the legendary Mr. Graham Abbo Henry. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, mate. Pleasure to be with you.
Thank you very much. And thanks for coming. We're absolutely honoured. We're a small amateur backyard mob, and it's just great having you here.
Thanks, mate. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Mr. Henry was involved in the Sydney Underworld for 30 years.
35, yeah.
35. Jeez.
75 to 2010.
Fantastic. Well, he's a colourful character. He's highly respected, and I respect the man too. He's a stand-up man, and he's not a dog. He doesn't bullshit. There's no bullshit about him. We're going to have a great chat with him today, and we'd like to kick off. If I get straight into it, Graham.
Yeah, mate.
We'd like to kick off. Basically, when you were a young bloke, where are you from? How did you get involved in this sort of thing? What was the lead up to it in Sydney, and also a bit about lacrosse? I hung up the cross myself as a young bloke, a lot in the early 80s right through, and it had a bad name, yeah, but it also was a fucking fun place.
Oh, it was a great place.
It was a great place, and it's fucked now.
Yeah, it's a different ball game, mate.
It's like leafy.
Different ball game, different people, different.
Yeah, it's a little inner leafy, trendy suburb now. Yeah. But I hadn't been there for years, and I went up there recently and was like, well, it used to be, the Barrel down was based.
That's right, the old Barrel, yeah.
Madam Butterflies and places like that, Menzel Room and Texas Tavern.
Venus Room.
Oh. And Texas Tavern I heard there was some shocking shit.
The old tavern there, but it was good upstairs up there.
Yeah.
The top floor.
Yeah.
That was the best room.
That was the party room.
The party room. Yeah. It was good up there.
But so a bit about where
mate, I actually my youngest memories. I actually came from Sylvania as a kid, a little young whippersnipper. We moved from Sylvania when I was probably about 5 years of age and went to Sans Souci on Botany Bay.
Yeah, nice.
Where my father, or my alleged father, and my mother actually purchased the shop for old milk bar where all the local louts used to hang around. And they were called the Dairy Gang. They all come from around Ramsgate, and they all rode horses and used to charge at each other with big sticks and poles on them like Sir Lancelot or something.
Yeah, yeah.
So they were pretty well known blokes like Harry Eden, who played for St George, and all those sort of blokes. So my sister used to go out with them, so I used to sneak around making sure she was not up to no good, Yeah. So she was about 7 years older than me. But anyway, we knocked around there for a few years, and we went belly up there because my old man's drinking. He used to drink methylated spirits in those days mixed with tomato sauce. He'd burn it, get the flame out of it, and they'd get on the piss, him and this grocer that he knew. And, and he was just, as far back as I can never remember, he was always flogging my mother. Well, my mother only had one leg. She lost it when she was 10. She had it cut off above the knee. And,
what was that from, mate?
She cut it on an oyster. There was no penicillin around in those days.
Fucking hell.
And
big infection.
Big infection, gangrene set in, and off come the leg. So, but she was a pretty good sort, me mum. But anyway, my father was married prior to it. He'd fought in the Second World War in Syria. And
that was some heavy shit too. I mean, and there was nothing like today. There was no,
Well, it was all hand combat, wasn't it?
Yeah,
It was, there was no firing from 300 miles away and shooting missiles.
And the Japanese, the Japs were fucking ballsy.
The Japs were brutal, They castrated my father's brother. Castrated. That was in Shanghai prison. His name was Major Evans. You can look that up anywhere on the war things.
My great uncle was at Changi.
Was he?
Travascus,
Well,
his name was. He died years ago in Canberra.
Yeah.
And
Well,
the
he
bastards
died.
did the same. They blinded him. The bastards.
Yeah, well, my uncle, when he came out of there, who was my father's brother, as I say, the father I knew was my father at that time, was when his brother was chopped up, had his Niagaras cut off with a sword.
Oh, Jesus.
He came back, and I think he died at about the age of 40. So he probably died from broken heart,
Right.
not being able to have a dart,
a high voice.
But, you know what I mean? Yeah. So, I'm sure it had plenty of effects on them all. But when my father came home from the war to his first wife, he knocked on the door and someone else answered the door. He'd been away fighting for 3 or 4 years. And
this was common too, wasn't it, at the time? Yeah.
So I had stepbrothers and stepsisters. They're probably all loaf of bread now, wouldn't know. Don't have anything to do with them. But anyway, he left her and then met my mother. They had my daughter, and then I came along somewhere. I was born in a private hospital at Eastwood, which was close to where my father's father lived, my pop. And he was a war hero in the Boer War.
Yeah,
and he was actually the last man standing himself at the siege of the Maffei King, which was a pretty well-known part of the war. Anyway, he died at 99 years of age. I wrote a big story on him in the column 8 in the Herald. And so, it was sort of embedded in me as a kid. You don't rat.
Yep.
Rather rat than have your balls cut off and you know what I mean?
You don't.
That was common knowledge around the schoolyards in my day,
That's it. Yeah, that's what I used to say. It was CDF, common dog fight.
That's
you
right.
Just don't.
No,
you don't.
exactly.
You don't dog. Yeah.
So, I guess through all the, as I say, my earliest memories of my father really brutalising my mother. I don't mean slapping her. He used to punch her like a prize fighter, bust her up bad. And, I'd try and do something. I might kick him, put on my football boots, kick him. He'd get up and kick the shit out of me.
Being a young bloke and half your size.
Just went right through until I got to about an age of about 13. I decided to start having a bit of a crack at him. So I'd get him out on the front lawn when he wanted to fight, and it was a bit of a rise in the hill. But by this time, we lived in Epping. We'd moved to my grandfather's place, and then the brothers that were left of my father's family split up the money, and we ended up with a deposit for a house out at North Epping, which today is worth millions of dollars.
Oh, shit, yeah. Years ago, you'd get a nice house for 30 grand out there. So.
It was just an old, 3-bedroom weatherboard joint, but, it was like a glamour house to me after living, where we'd lived, because we used to boil our water down the backyard for in a copper.
Yeah.
And I had to cart it up and down the yards and pour it in the bath 15 times before I could have a bath. So
I remember the copper well. I got a scar above my shot out with my mum's hands, with it's all soaped up, and she said, you whacked right on the copper, which could explain a lot.
Yeah. We were a bit punchy, mate. Yeah. But, so that was a pretty tough upbringing, but, I'm sort of glad I went through it. I look at the young blokes today and I think, fucking soft cocks. Got it so easy, so spoilt, rotten.
Oh.
I look at under the Christmas tree at my place now, and there's, 200 presents.
Yep.
I looked there when I was a kid. Me and my sister was probably four things then. There were probably a pair of underpants and a singlet.
Yeah. But you were grateful for anything you got as well, yeah.
I was 15 before I got a push bike or something, So anyway, so then we left Epping, and I started knocking around Epping, as a teenager, because I had to get out of the house because of the brutalisation going on at home. And me fist fighting him at 13, and he was still beating me, of course. And so I started going to boxing over at North Sydney Police Boys. And I remember the old coach there, he said to me, you seem a little bit angry, mate, when you punch in the bag. And he said, do you want to learn to box to fight amateur and that? I said, no, not particularly. I said, I just want to learn to fight so I can flog me father.
Yeah.
Well, he nearly dropped. He said, are you serious, mate? I said, yeah, mate.
Fucking oath. Yeah.
when I told him the story about him after a few months of going there and training, he wanted to go over and kill him himself.
Yeah.
So anyway, I come home one night. Look, this went on and on. It was a weekly routine, you know. Old man pick up the dinner plate, smash it overhead, king hit her, you know, put her up against the fridge, punch the crap out of her. She'd fight back,
Yeah.
you know. But then I'd try and attack him, you know, and get him out the front again, as I said. So
you got that mix of what happened in the war, not making an excuse, but
yeah, of course.
it definitely affected him.
He took painkillers, which were called phenobarb. And phenobarb were barred off the markets in the 70s. It was a painkiller.
Yeah.
He was injured during the war, had a war injury.
Yeah.
And instead of being on morphine, they put him on these tablets, and they used to mix with the drink, used to make him hallucinate.
Throw in the booze and fucking hell.
Anyway, it got to the stage where I come home one night. I'd been living on the streets. I used to live in the parks. I'd live in the old cricket rooms in the dunnies where they used to roll up the mats for all the cricket. I'd, put all my bag in there. All the council blokes used to always come around, move me bag, never touched anything of me stuff, you know.
So that was
I always knew I lived there. There was a different setup.
Yeah.
They were different people back then.
Yeah.
And if I didn't live there, I lived in an ambulance shed up at Epping Station, which had a little bed in it. So I'd swap between here and there, and then this treehouse in this kindergarten. So, anyway, then I'd go back home during the day, see how my mother was, things like that. I'd always check on her. But I come home one night and I was about 15 and a half, and I decided to stay the night. And next fucking minute I went into my bedroom that I had, and he started, carrying on like a real loop, you know. So I actually had a go at him. I yelled out to him, shove that mouth organ he was playing up his arse or something. I said, my mother's got to get up in the morning. Anyway, I always was born with this magnificent awareness, mate. Don't ask me where it come from.
Yeah.
But my mother had it. My young daughter's got it. It's like a psychic thing.
Yeah.
I always get warnings of things that are going to happen. And I'd won this tray at an amateur boxing thing. I don't know if I won the fight. I don't think I did. I think I got stopped for fighting off the ropes or something. You weren't allowed to do that in amateur, you know. But anyway, the tray had a boxing. It was just a tray. And my mother had this guitar, an Hawaiian guitar, and used to have a steel plectrum that you'd slide up and down, make that Hawaiian sound, you know. So I used to put that on the doorknob, and I had a gut feeling this night, and I put it up on the door. Next minute, bang, it hit the floor. The door flew open, and I just seen him coming at me with something. And I rolled out of the bed, got out of the window, and I bolted.
Yeah.
Right? Because he used to put the wind up me. He was a fucking violent old bastard.
Had a fairly big bloke.
Well, he wasn't tall. He was nuggety, strong and nuggety. And but he was just a mental case on the drink with these drugs. And I had no idea really as a kid, and I didn't give a hump. Wasn't until as I got older I realised, he had a lot of pressures, the poor bastard.
Yeah.
But look, that's no excuse for the way he battered my mother.
No.
But anyway, I come back in the morning. He was sitting out the back having a cigarette. I just walked past him, didn't say anything. I walked down the hallway and here was a garden mattock embedded in the bed. So it would have hit me straight in the chest. So he come in there, he tried to kill me. So that was the end of that. So I was filthy after that.
Yeah.
So then I come home one night, I was about 16. By then I'd had, 100 street fights, you know what I mean? And I deliberately got into fights to get better and better and better. But the one thing I could do, I had these massive punches. I could punch like a mule for a wiry bloke,
Yeah.
And I was blessed, and I got knuckles like, they're huge.
Concrete. Yeah.
Anyway, I ended up coming home this night, and I went to open up the door because my mother and father never slept together. When I opened up the door, it was all jammed up with something. And I pushed the door. Now I could see that he was in my mother's bed. I walked into the room where he usually was, and it was empty. So then I panicked, went, where is she? So I went flying up the hallway, and then I saw all the blood all over the kitchen floor. So I'm screaming out for her. Well, she didn't want to say anything, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, I found her. She was under the house and she had like blood clots, lowering clots over her. Like, he really gave her a bad eye this night. No, well, that was it. I lost the plot. I ran in, I kicked the frigging door straight in, dragged him out of the bed, and I flogged him and flogged him and flogged him. I ran up the hallway and I got a fork, which was like a big barbecue fork, 2 prongs. I come back and I stuck him in the chest, I stuck him in the face. I just wanted to kill him.
Yeah.
You know, I was crying my eyes out, you filthy old.
Yeah.
You know.
Which is a son's reaction.
You know, it was everything built up over all them years that just come out of me, and yet my mother stopped me. I was a bit astonished, you know. I thought should have let me keep going, but anyway, wasn't meant to be. Anyway, he never told on me, you know, so he went to the hospital, come back. But when I come back home, when he did come out of the hospital, he had all these war medals up on the table and a note that said, take a medal for every bone you broke in my body, right? So I stuck him on my chest. I was going to stick him on there and walk in and just bridge up to him, say, yeah, right, they look better on me or something, but I ended up running in, I threw them at him and I said, you didn't deserve them, you dog, you know. That was virtually the last time I ever went home, you know, so I just stayed on the streets and that's how I lived.
What happened to him, Graham? What happened to your dear father?
He ended up killing himself. He took an overdose when I was about, I just got out of Parramatta jail, so I was about 23, and he took the overdose. He said, I won't be here much longer. I said, oh, well, bad luck. And then next day I rang up my wife, who had just been married, and and I thought she was laughing on the other end. I said, what are you laughing at? She said, I'm not. Your dad died. And I said, well, come and pick me up at Epping Station. So she drove up and picked me up and went home, and I went, oh, well, thank God he's gone. You know? And,
Jesus.
You know, so I certainly didn't shed any sorrow over him.
Yeah, which is understandable. You know, and you kind of feel a little bit sorry for your old man, the way how the war fucked him up, but... Fuck that.
You want your old man to be your mate.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? You know, you want him to back you up. You want him to, you know.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, he never come to a boxing match. He never come to a football match. He never did anything. You know?
He'd just get pissed and flog your mum.
Yeah.
It's fucking awful. I had a little bit of that with my first old man who disappeared in the 80s.
Oh, you know, it made me pretty cranky kid, you know what I mean? Yeah. You know, a bit of a boiling cauldron inside me, you know what I mean, all the time, and when it erupted, it erupted.
Was your mother all right?
My mother was pretty strong. She was a very strong lady, of mind, you know. But she was very spiritual. Like, when I say spiritual, she was right into, well, I mean, she believed in God and all that, and was always went to church and all that. But she had this thing, and she used to always tell me about spirits, because I used to have bad dreams about snakes.
Yeah, right.
And so she used to come in and sit down on the end of the bed, and she'd say, because I'd wake up in a nightmare or something as a kid, you know, and she said, what are you dreaming about? And I'd say, oh, I just fell into this massive big pit of snakes. She said, you're going to have a lot of enemies. and how right she was.
So you've got a bit of psychic
mate,
in the family, probably from your mum or whoever.
I've seen spirits. I've seen my own soul in 1979 come out of my body while I was meditating. You know, and I'd swear on any lie detector test you got in the world, mate, on that.
That's right. I had when my pop died, I was only 10 in 77. James Hector Spratt, his name was Jack Spratt. Right. He was a fucking great man. And when he died, I was gutted, you know, because my real father was shit too. And so he was like the fill-in.
Yeah.
We were from Pennant Hills for years.
Oh, right, okay.
He'd take me to Kmart up there and, you know, you look at the fishing, and that was when they sold air rifles and shotties at Kmart.
Yeah, that's right. And just cock them, crack them over your shoulder and walk down the street with them.
It was fantastic, And you can go to a gun shop at I was 12 or whatever and get some ammo, 22 ammo. And
you could even have 22 rifles as long as you had the bolt out.
That was it. I used to pot minor birds from the window years ago, you know, because I was Parramatta, but we were at Pennant Hills for years, so I know Epping well.
I used to play in between Pennant Hills and Epping in the bush there, and then, you know, and that's what we do with the air guns. We just have wars.
Yeah,
We'd
you would,
fight each
yeah.
other, shoot
Yeah.
each other in the face and the head. And
It was great fun.
you know,
It was great
I
fun.
knocked the bloke's tooth out one day. I thought I'd shot his eye out, and he actually blew his
yourself in for
tooth
a bit.
out.
Oh,
I
fuck.
shot him straight for the tooth.
But my grandfather appeared in my bedroom that night, standing there with he had like those golfer Dr. Harry hat type things on. He appeared and said, "See you later, Stevie."
Yeah.
And I was just not crying or anything like that. And I don't give a fuck what anyone says. And I'm goosing up now.
Yeah.
It happened. It was real.
No,
and I
it
don't
is
give
real.
I'll take a poly any
If
day.
you haven't ever experienced it, you know, you'll never believe it, I guess. But,
Absolutely.
But, you know, when there's a million people that do and, you know, they see a ghost, well, that's a spirit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As simple as that. First one I saw was probably 13, that run up the side of my house.
Yeah.
And, but later on, like as I got into the world of organised crime, from, you know, running around in street gangs and robbing things. I mean, I was doing armed robberies at 15. You know what I mean? And I always wanted to do things like that. You know, we'd go and do burglaries while there was 10 blokes in the house, you know. We knew there was a heap of drugs there, pot, you know, just pot.
Yeah.
So we'd just get in there where we were all stoned and just walk around. I can remember coming out one night and the bloke said to was driving and said, "Where you been, mate? You've been in there for 2 hours." I said, "We're hungry, so we had breakfast." We ate breakfast in their kitchen while I was...
We saw a loaf of bread.
Come out with everything, you know, all the gear and all the money and, you know what I mean? But that's what I did. But I never ever got caught for anything like stealing. The coppers all knew. They used to pull me in. They say, "We know it's you doing it. We know it's you knocking off this place." But no one would tell on me. Yeah. You know what I mean? And...
That was a big difference, wasn't it? No one rat.
Even the kids that I grew up, you know, were as staunch as they come.
Yeah.
The higher I got in crime, the worse they became.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the jealousy and the greed and the envy and the, you know, and then they come out of the woodwork. Jeez. But, so I progressed from that sort of crime. And then by the time I'd done a couple of little stints for, you know, bashing a cup. I always got pinched for like belting coppers or knocking out coppers or...
Just mugging someone for a few bucks or whatever.
The Eastwood police were absolutely terrified of me. I used to... Mate, I could chase them around the car, like 2 and 3 of them. They'd run away from me.
Dead set.
You know, I was a kid, you know.
Yeah.
But I remember one night I was chasing one around the car trying to get hold of him, and then next minute the cab driver decided he'd just run me straight over. So he run me over. I went underneath the cab and then they all dragged me out and then they took me down and gave me the worst serving ever, you know what I mean? But, you know, but I was used to it, you know, so I sort of got off on it, you know what I mean? I enjoyed getting away with what I did, you know. I never robbed poor old people that didn't have 4 bob or bash up pensioners or steal handbags, you know.
There was still a code. I believe there was still a code, like not like today.
No, we just oystered to look after ourselves, and I certainly did, to stay on the street and survive and buy myself a car and, you know, things like that. But, you know, as I say, then it progressed and progressed. Then I went to jail for assault and another assault and another assault. You know, they were the things I always went to jail for, violence. You know,
how many stints did you have, Graham?
I've done 14 years all told. So
yeah, fucking hell.
You know, but in period little ones, and the biggest one I got 8 years with a 6, and that was for the attempted murder of a police officer who they knew was corrupt, and that was the only reason I got the 8 years with the 6.
Yeah,
you know, and I did 6 years, and then just as I was getting out, 2 weeks prior to me getting out, I was on works release. And a gang tried to murder me because they didn't want me back out on the street. So they took about 16 shots at me with 238 revolvers. I should have known better and used some 9 mils or something. That was 38s aren't very good over
Snub
distance.
nose, and they're not, short distance. They're not that powerful.
As I said, that awareness that I've always had just prior to it happening,
that built it in.
I dreamt about this massive big snake. I knew it was in the inner city, and it was going up this drain. And I started pulling this big snake like an anaconda out of the drain, and it went past my head like a big dragon head on it, right? And I went. So I thought to myself, someone's going to have a crack at me, but I'm going to be all right.
Yeah.
I already knew.
Yeah.
Anyway, the screw dropped me off, the prison officer, dropped me off at the work gate at this place. It was on about 300 acres. They used to fix up old trains. It was at Rothbury in the Hunter Valley. And they dropped me off there and, I was getting used to getting out again to the outside world and all that. But I started, there was a little car on the property. I started driving around, just having a bit of a snoop, and every now and then I'd start to see a couple of people just having a little sniff in the bush and, and I thought, ooh, something not right here. Anyway, just prior to it happening, I had that dream. Then the screw dropped me off a couple of days later to work. And as he did, he dropped me at the front gate. He turned around and headed back to Cessnock Jail. And as I'm walking in, I was walking down to this train carriage that one of the blokes lived in that worked there.
Right.
And as soon as he seen me, I seen his head in the window. He always made me a cup of tea, and then I'd go down to the bottom shed and do my day's job, until the screws picked me up. So they'd found out I was there on works release through sniffing around an old bloke called Jackie Sparrow down in Sydney. And they were actually visiting me at the time when this conversation came to light. And so I was warned. Someone rang me and told me, and I said, well, funny, they come and visited me at the works release where they shouldn't have, but they did. They come and see me, and they said, some people want to drop you some clothes. I said, drop me some clothes? What sort of clothes? He said, for when you get out. I said, I've got my own clothes, mate. I don't need anyone to drop me off any clothes.
Yeah.
So that sort of put the ears on me. Then the next day, as I say, I'm walking into the thing over there. My mate's making a cup of tea, and then I just went, bang, something made me look to the right. This short bloke and a real big bloke.
Big build, yeah.
They stood up, camouflage gear on, balaclavas, and just started emptying. Well,
fucking hell.
For a month prior to it, all I'd been doing was sprint training. Before I got out, I was doing all the sprint training. I was training another bloke like who wanted to fight outside.
Yeah.
And so that's what we were doing, the sprint training. So I was 47 then. So as I was bolting, and this is about the 5th attempt on my life by this time, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I've actually just taken off like a rocket. And I remember there was a massive big pond there, like, with all the marshes that they have in some of the middle of them paddocks. And I was nearly going to dive into that, and I thought, well, I'm not going to dive in there because if I come up, they might get me, you know what I mean? So I just kept hurtling along until the adrenaline ran out of my legs and I fell over. When I looked back, he was about 50 yards back as the crow flies. And I yelled out, I knew straight away who it was. And I said, your old man was called Who Can I? And they come from around the Glebe way. And I said, Who can I tell on? That's what your old man was known as. And it runs in the family, you fucking dog.
Yeah.
Right? So his mate was with him. So out comes the caretaker. They get the caretaker and cave his head in with a gun and bash him. He got about a $60,000 thing, I should have got rewarded myself. Just for dodging them. Anyway, he ran out and they took off. Hour and a half later, in drive the detectives. Hour and a half later.
Yeah.
Detectives drive in, shotguns hanging out the window, bulletproof vest on. I said this is the biggest setup of all time.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
So they drive in and then they said, who was it? I said, I'll worry about that, mate. You worry about your end and I'll do mine. Anyway, they found the getaway car down the road which headed up to Curry in the bush. And that's where I was probably going. They already probably had the hole dug, and because they found the cable ties, so they were expecting a bit of a main event for sure, if I wasn't dead. So anyway, I got through the break on it, and I remember getting back to the prison after I'd been to the police station where I told them nothing, and they videoed it all. And I just said, I'll look after my own, mate. You do your job and I'll do mine. So we got back to the prison, and I heard the governor talking over the telephone to the head office in town saying, I want my officer given a medal. And I thought, fuck, he was probably near back to the jail by the time they started shooting at me. Anyway, he went on stress leave. He's on stress leave and I'm as high as a kite.
Yeah.
My adrenaline's that high. I'm bouncing out of my skin, mate. I've dodged 16 bullets, I'm on fire. You know what I mean?
These cunts that must be thinking, oh, shit.
Oh, yeah, they knew that. Well, that's what I said. I said, you made a bad mistake, mate. You missed me.
You missed me, yeah.
Right?
And
so
I'll be coming
I
for
got a midnight release about 2 weeks later. And, Harry Potter was waiting for me with, from Channel 10 with the cameras and everything. Anyway, they did a big story on the next day. Within 2 days, they were on me again. And then another couple of little attempts happened in between that. Then I said to my wife, right, leaving Lake, because I was in Lake Macquarie by this time, living in Lake Macquarie in Spears Point, my father-in-law's place. And I said, well, going back to Sydney, I can't live here. I've got to go back and sort this
out.
Yeah. So I went back there until about 2004. I left a Good Friday 2004 and got out of there just before another attempt was made on my life. So, overall I've had 20 during the 35 years in organised crime, 20 attempts. When I say the attempts, look, I've been shot in the head by the police. Yeah. I've been shot in the leg. I've been stabbed with a knife in the wrist here. I've had machete across my legs. I've had iron bars over my head. I've still got big dent here. You can come over and feel it if you like.
Yeah.
But, so I've been through the mill and back, but I'm still here and they're all gone.
That's right. So, and thank fuck for this sense that you have. I think a lot these days don't have what you have, a lot of crooks or whatever. You've got to be aware. You've always got to look around and be aware of where you are and have some sense, and don't put yourself in these
this gut feeling. Well, it's not at you. Yeah. I believe it's your spirit telling you.
Yeah.
It's a warning that comes from within. Yeah. I believe in that 100%.
Yeah.
Always have. Yeah. And I think that's always kept me in good stead. You know what I mean? I can remember getting up one morning to go and do a robbery on an armoured van. And I got up and as I got up, I said, you better change your underpants and take another pair, you'll be going to the nick. Yeah. That's what I said to myself. I went, so I just put them back in the drawer, made a message to me mate over a special phone we had, and I said, it's off, we're not going. And I always told them, if I make the call that's off, the job's off.
It's off, yeah.
You know what I mean? And they respected that, so that was
just
it.
Again, this gut sort of feeling. Jesus.
They're always new, mate. Always new.
Yeah.
All the time, every time they hunt me, or I'm in the right place at the right time. Like I went and seen a psychic one day up at Port Macquarie. Her name was Hazel. She was absolutely amazing this year. I got up there and she said to me, I don't need to tell you a great deal because you're what they call a seer. You see things before they're going to happen to you.
She knew.
She already knew. Yeah. But she told me stuff there that day that just blew me mind. That no one would know.
So many people dismiss it and go, it's bullshit.
Oh, no.
I totally disagree.
Yeah, there's plenty of charlatans in the game. Yeah. Of course, them card readers and, but someone's got it. They've got the knowledge. My daughter's brilliant at it, but she goes freezing cold down the back and gets all that sort of thing. See, I don't, but I can call on someone.
Yeah.
I can call on a friend who's passed and I can get an answer off him. I can see him. I've had one sit on the end of my bed.
Yeah.
Someone who was dead, someone who tried to murder me.
Yeah. And
his words were, you trusted Ned Smith too much.
That's it.
That's what the spirit said to me. So,
it's unbelievable, isn't it? And like I say, I definitely believe, like, my dad passed last year on September fucking 11 of all days, and he had a horrible last 2 years.
Yeah.
But a couple of times a week I'll say, and his name was Graham, a couple of times a week I was talk to Graham and I goose up straight away.
Yeah.
I know he's around me,
that's right.
and I know he's keeping an eye on Mum.
Yeah.
And I have to help Mum and keep an eye on my mother, But he was a great man, straight as.
Yeah.
But like I say, I talked to him and my old grandfather, on my mother's side. He's a fantastic, fantastic bloke. But when I talk, I goose up straight away. And you have a feeling, and it's dead set. And I don't give a fuck. A lot of people say, oh, bullshit. Well, whatever. You can think whatever,
Well, my wife sort of used to think I was a little bit, and I remember her visit me when she came to see me at Cessnock there one day, and I said, someone's going to try and kill me. And she said, what in here? I said, while I'm out at work. I don't know when. I just know someone's going to try and kill me. And she said, oh, you're paranoid.
Yeah.
Anyway, after it happened and became headlines, my kids heard it over the radio. The teacher came up and told them in the school. I started crying, already thought I was dead because the news was I'd been shot. So when they got home, they were all watching it on the news. They'd realised I'd survived it. My wife turned up the following day on the visit on the Saturday, and said to me, I'll never doubt you again.
Yeah, good.
You know what I mean? Because, I always know.
Yeah, yeah.
And I always see them. There's been people that drive past my place even since I've retired. And my street's a cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
And I just happen to sit down at the right time, and down they come. I've got little hidden cameras everywhere anyway that I can always replay anyway. But, I know exactly who they are. And the same bloke who tried to knock me kept on sending his wife. He'd always send his wife to do his dirty homework.
What a hero.
So he didn't get caught in the street.
Yeah, send your missus. Yeah.
And that's a scumbag he is, And a police informer with it, so.
And your missus too. How long have you been with your missus, Graham?
48 years, mate.
Yeah, fucking gold.
48 years, mate, yeah.
Jesus. And she sounds like she's been fantastic.
Oh, she's a rock, mate. She's my rock.
Stuck by you as well.
Oh, solid as a rock, mate.
It's like, it's funny how you end up too because, my girlfriend, it's straight down the line.
Yeah.
Straight down the line.
Yeah, exactly.
She's terrific. She'll support anything.
Yeah. No, well, as I always said to my wife, I'll keep going and doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I don't tell you nothing.
Yeah.
So you don't ever know nothing. You can't ever tell anyone anything.
That's right. The least you know, the better.
Where other blokes I know, like I just explained that bloke, their wives know everything.
Yeah.
They know what they're doing. They know where their money is. They know what they're doing. Know what I mean?
If something happens, they're going to the money pot, the honey
right.
pot first.
I mean, my wife, I'd have certain ones where certain places, I'd say you'd go there and get that.
Yeah.
Then I had other money that I always kept in Sydney in certain places.
Yep.
And, that money was to do business with and do whatever we were doing in the organised crime world.
A bit of emergency cash. Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? So, and over the years...
It's better off stashed these days in the fucking banks. Jesus Christ.
Well, they don't give you anything, so...
The banks, ATMs are disappearing. The banks are disappearing. It's all about the share. They don't give a fuck. You
just got to keep rolling it over, mate. That was the name of the game. So
use your own bank.
Unfortunately, didn't always work, and sometimes you'd lose it. Maybe someone jumped on it, the feds or the state police, or what I mean. So you had to get out of the way. Sometimes we could get some of it back.
Yep.
Depending on who the coppers were.
Yeah, right.
Other times
less a fee.
Other times we just let it go, and that probably cost me my retirement money. One of them because I lost everything.
Yeah,
I put a lot of money into everything that no one knew about except me and three blokes, and they're dead, and they were part of my crew in the armoured van robberies and anything we did. And
when you look at it over time,
millions upon millions, just with net in 10 years, 100 million. You know what I mean? But out of that, you're paying people, you're doing stuff, putting money somewhere, paying barristers, slinging coppers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Living a lifestyle, taking some home, the rest has got to turn over.
Yeah.
But Ned was a prolific spender and, He'd always be handing it out to the girls, and you know what I mean.
It's in a lot of cases, isn't it? In a lot of cases where it's sort of the more you get, the more you party, the more money you make.
That's right.
It's like, I'll have that new car, or I'll have a nice watch, and I'll have this and that. And that's
I never sort of got into buying the new ones. I just try to keep as medium profile.
Yeah,
but but I was pretty safe because we worked under what. Everyone knows as the green light in the old days, which was only three major gangs ever in Sydney ever had that. Three major gangs. And that was the Lenny McPherson gang, who was the older gang than us, who run the illegal gambling, everything else, protection. with George Freeman, Stan the Man, Smith,
Yep.
Jimmy Goodwin, all that crew. And then that started to fade out. As they faded out, we came on the scene. Yeah. We started doing the robberies, and then drugs come on the scene, and then Stan...
Well, that's funny, isn't it? It's like the next sort of generation.
That's right. But Stan was the only one out of the McPherson gang who got involved in the drugs. Now, everyone throws up all this bullshit that McPherson was into the drugs and everything, and that's only because he knocked around with Louis Bayer in the cross. But, he really sold off the farm by putting him in place because, it attracted a different crew. And
he disappeared. He got a hail... Bayer, was it?
Well, he gave up everyone. He really caused the Royal Commission, as did my partner in crime, Nettie, and through the ICAC. And I was actually kicked out of that. 2.5 years, they kept me in solitary, thought I'd roll over, and that was never going to happen. So I got up in the witness box after 2.5 years, and I lasted a minute and a half, and they booted me, and that was headlines the next day.
It was,
Henry ejected from the inquiry. So that was the end of it. Well, they never called me back.
They've got a lot to answer for themselves.
But a lot of things led up to all that sort of stuff, mate.
Yeah. They fry you before time. It's...
We'll talk about it after, but...
Yeah, definitely. We'll wrap this one up in a sec. Just quickly. Yeah. You work basically from that time. You worked hard and you played hard, and that's what you did. Because when you're young, you can leap tall buildings in a single bound.
Oh, for sure.
And I found that too. It's like fuck it, we'll go for 3 days.
We'll in prison, I'd just cruise through that. It was just like paying a bit of tax. Yeah, that's what you had to do. You had to do it.
I've got to ask you, Graham. You would have known Frank Farrell?
No, I didn't. He was a little bit before my time.
He was a tough bastard. I started my first job. I was barely 16. I hated school and left school. And I went around. It was actually for fucking News Limited. I was a junior circulation clerk, $100, $108 a week, I think. And I'll never forget, I was sitting there, and the pays, they still bought the pay sort of cash to you. And this big bastard came in. He looked like he'd been, hit with a truck. Yeah, and I remember the bloke had been there for years, and I said, who the fuck? And everyone's going, g'day, bumper. And I said, who the fuck's this bloke? Cauliflower.
Yeah, he just kick you up the arse and punch you in the face.
That's what he did, And my real got kicked down the stairs. Yeah. He said, he beat you down. He said, well, you want the cells or you want the fucking boot? Yeah. And you'd say, oh, boot.
That's right. Yeah, that's what he did.
I'll take the flogging. Yeah. And it was quick. And even though he was a hard cunt, they said he was fair.
Well they were. They were fair in their day. You know what I mean? Then there was the swines who'd fabricate you and verbal you. And, that's why in the end I was glad I was part of organised crime because, that wasn't happening. Yeah. Unless another squad, all the coppers that we had, by the time they finally started going and moving on, well, then I knew Ned had lost his power with them. Yeah, I moved on and started another gang.
Let's bail. Yeah, let's bail. She's sinking.
Time to move.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he was going downhill anyway at a fast rate. So, he had a bad liver and, jaundice in it. And so, probably getting life saved him for it. But he would have passed otherwise. Yeah. Just through the drinking, so.
It catches up with you, doesn't it? Oh, I was on the piss a lot when I was younger, but now weekends, I'm fucking a bit of a teetotaler during the week and weekends. But, mate, this is fantastic. What we'll do is we'll wrap this one up and do part 2 shortly. So thank you very much,
no worries,
Mr.
Mate.
Graham Henry. Thank you very much. Swingers will be back with part 2 very shortly. We're very grateful and really enjoying Mr. Henry's stories. And as I said before, they're not just stories, they're real. The man lived it, and it's an interesting part of Australian history. It's an interesting part of Australia. Things are different these days, and they should make a bloody film. You've been portrayed.
Yeah, they're actually in the process of doing one.
They bloody should.
But, the COVID's held it up, and so
it's big bucks to make it a movie.
Yeah,
it's big bucks.
So we're trying to look at a series that's going to go from when I was 15 till about 2010. So
it'd be bloody fantastic. Yeah.
So it should cover about 40 or 50 years or something.
Oh, mate, fantastic. We look forward to it. I hope it goes well. Yeah. Thank you
all right,
very
mate.
much, sir.
No worries.
And we'll be back with episode 10, the second part, very shortly. Again, we're just bloody honoured and lucky to have this gentleman with us today. Okay, swingers, we'll be back shortly, and I'll say bye.